Good morning and welcome to another Daily Devotions with Pastor Joe. I'm Pastor Joe, and we're continuing in our readings of Elijah, the story of Elijah, the prophet of God, with 1 Kings 19, verses 1 through 8, where it says, "And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It's enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under the juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him, and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baken on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. And this is one of the most, to me, amazing and sad stories in Elijah's life. You know, Elijah went through an awful lot of things. He went through a horrible famine. He went through trusting God for ravens to feed him by the brook Cherith. He went through this old widow woman and her son who had hardly enough food to make it one more day, and yet God blessed them so greatly to make it all the way through. He dealt with the death of that child. He dealt with the prophets of Baal, and a humongous step of faith in challenging them to this showdown with the fire. And he went through praying to God over the rain coming back, him outrunning the chariot with Ahab. And then all of a sudden, as he's waiting by the gates or waiting out in the courts, and Jezebel is being told by Ahab all of these things, Jezebel sends a messenger and says, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to make you like those prophets that you killed. I'm going to destroy you. And this queen, one of the prophets of Baal, prophetesses of Baal, now all of a sudden Elijah's afraid of her. I know. A lot of people say, well, she was the queen. Well, that's true, but he stood up to the king, who technically had more authority, even though she seemed to be holding the reins and running the show. Some people say, well, she was such a wicked person. Of course, you would be scared too. Well, I suppose I would be scared, but I wasn't doing what Elijah was doing. If I was doing what Elijah was doing, there'd be nothing to make me afraid. But now Elijah's so scared, and so low, and so depressed that he's saying, God, just take my life. I don't even want to live anymore. I'm not worth anything. But you know, God is faithful to then send an angel of the Lord to touch him, to feed him, to give him a drink, to let him rest some more, to touch him, to feed him, to give him more to drink, the hungry and thirsty after righteousness' sake, you know, and send him on that with enough strength from that meal for 40 days and 40 nights to travel all the way to the Mount Horeb, where we're going to learn soon he has a very special meeting with God. But, man, it just seemed so strange to me for so long. But, you know, whenever we're on top of the mountain and we feel like we've just really hit a high spiritually, it's pretty easy to have one thing just trip us up and make us feel like we're in the pit again. It's very easy to have just one thing send us into a spiraling depression sometimes. I know what it's like to be there. I've been there myself. I never really thought about it that way until, well, a couple of years ago, whenever I did face a pretty low point in my life right after a very big spiritual high. In fact, it was always that way in college whenever we would have an excellent revival in the spring or in the fall, that the week after, I might be okay, but after that, I just had a few weeks of really serious battles where the enemy of my soul just tried to take away everything that I had gotten from those revivals. And, I mean, it was rough. You understand, this is what was happening here. Jezebel was just the right person to get through to Elijah and scare him and shake him up and mess him up and get him in this condition. And unfortunately, you're probably going to face that yourself sometimes. If you're hitting a spiritual high, I suggest that you prepare yourself for the wind that's going to blow ahead, but enjoy the closeness to God that you've got during this time. It's very important, and it's going to prepare you for the wind that's going to come. But if you're in the middle of a real spiritual low and you feel down and depressed and as if you've just got the world against you and you might as well give up and there's no reason to try, let me encourage you that there's a lot of reason to try. I get discouraged from day to day. I really do, from moment to moment sometimes. And I've had those discouraging times where I felt like I just wanted to give up on what I was doing and quit and do nothing or go do something else or go to sleep and just forget it all, like Elijah here. But that's not worth it. That's not the answer. The answer is to lean harder on God and to trust in Him, because He's going to give you the strength you need to make it through the trial, the trouble, the difficulty, whatever it is you're facing. God is going to give you the answer that you seek. So go to God in prayer this morning, and if you're feeling a spiritual low, if you're in a spiritual low, you're in a funk spiritually, just funky, right? Just feeling down. Then ask God to lift you back up out of that low feeling that you're facing. God will, if you let Him. So, have a good day in the Lord, and I trust that you'll enjoy His presence today in a very special way. God bless you. Join me again tomorrow for another daily devotion with Pastor Joe. Have a great day, and God bless.